All right. All right. Yeah, thanks, Phil. Glad you're doing okay. Yeah, I forgot you're in the Panhandle, to be honest with you. So, sorry about that. I saw you on the beach on the photos, but I didn't realize where you were. Thank you for having me on, and good seeing everybody again. So today we're basically this is kind of week two of the for the month. This is what we're going over for the entirety of the month. Last week we kind of went kind of a real high level view of the process and the overall like what we're looking for and how it connect 401ks connect to 7702 non-qualified plans, that there's a state mandate in a lot of the states throughout the country. I have a web page that I want to show everybody that we launched just this last week. I think you guys can see that, right? Should be able to see that. And so this is you can use this as a resource. Actually, let me put this in the chat for everybody. Um, where is that chat? Let's see, there it is. Okay, so just put it in the chat. This is our web page that has that mandate on there, the mandates. But basically, you can see blue and green are the ones that have passed, that have been implemented or in place or in progress. So they've already passed legislation. And then the ones, or excuse me, the blue is the proposed, the green are the one that is already in place, and then the clear ones here are the ones that don't have anything coming at all. So, but you can see the mass majority are trying to, or if not, have already put these in place. So great place to get started on those. And the other thing is, and Phil, I did email this over to you. I know you're on vacation, but this is the states that everyone can sell 401k plans, even defined benefit plans you can get into. So I want to go over that a little bit. But look, I mean, life. Almost all of them just require a life license. Okay, so you guys will have this, Phil, once you disperse this out. But really interesting on how many states you can actually do these for. So pair that with the mandates, you have a pretty killer prospecting tool there. So let's see, where were we? There we go. So this week we're going to get into mainly the options for high income businesses. Next week is going to be case studies, and then we're going to have one of the record keepers, John Hancock, specifically come in, and they're going to talk about their prospecting tools that you'll have access to. So we'll get into all that. So to break down today a little bit further is going to be how to build a retirement plan stack. It's kind of like a coined phrase that I put together, but a retirement plan stack is multiple plans on top of each other. So we're not trying to like push away the needs or the requirements for these business owners. We're trying to stack them on top of each other because we want to make sure that we're not trying to go against any state requirements, but also there's two things that business owners care about: growing their company and taxes. So we got to be able to make sure we take care of both of those. And then I'm going to go over a few advanced plan options. Um, and remember, the concept of this month is high income business owners, but you can start on the lower level. I'm going to kind of explain something here to you in a minute. And by the way, please interrupt me if you guys have questions too. Okay. I'll keep an eye on the chat and everything, but also feel free to unmute and just interrupt me. Yeah, and just a reminder, write down anyone you can think of. I have lots of different brochures that I believe Phil already sent out to you for different industries. If you have an industry, we can have that made for you as well. I'll explain that to you here in a little bit. Well, I might as well show you now. So this is the brochure. It is completely unbranded, the one that you have, and it goes through all the things that we're going to talk about today. And you'll be able to send those out whenever you need to. So, oh, that's from you, Phil. Thank you. Okay, so I want to. Okay, here we go. I wanted to kind of go over this again. This is the different retirement plan options. Um, these state mandates are basically this right here. Or actually, I'm sorry, you're seeing, there you go. The state mandates are this. It's a payroll deducted IRA. We've been offering this for 10 years now, but the state options are the exact same thing. They're basically a bag of Roth IRAs with very, very poor investment options. Most of them have New Jersey, to be honest with you, is the best one. They have Vanguard target date funds. Everybody else has literally 3 or 4 mutual funds and a mutual fund target date fund. Target date funds are basically just options based on your age. So you'll have a 2060 fund. So if you're going to retire around the year 2060, you'll go into that. It'll automatically get more conservative for you. But generally these are really bad funds, and they went to the highest bidder. These mutual fund companies went to the states and said, "Hey, we can give you this much, or offer this," and they're usually pretty bad. And the whole idea is we want to, during these conversations, is walk them up with the concept of doing these advanced plan designs. So, for example, I'm going to go through a lot of examples, and then we'll go over the case studies next week. But these business owners who are in like the state of California, the Illinois, Virginia, Maryland, these are the ones we're getting the most traction in right now, because they have these mandates and they're pretty stringent, and that most of them are going to be charging the business owner like $250 per employee, and then it'll go up from there if they just keep doing it over and over and over again. So for like 3 years straight, for example, maybe they'll go up to $500 per employee. But when they contact, we're probably onboarding 4 clients as we speak, out of the 8 that we're onboarding, and those 4 are because of a state mandate. So they'll come to us and say, we want to open up a simple IRA or a 401k, this one or this one, because my employees don't like the options that are given to me in the state. And they come to us and it's very transactional, and and we have to walk them through how to get them to a larger plan design, because they don't know. Most business owners think a 401k is a 401k is a 401k. They don't know all the tools that are available to them, all these IRS codes that are available to them. They just need to be able to follow, offer it to their employees or something like that. So one of them right now, they came to us, they're out of California. They said, my employees don't like these bag of IRAs that California is offering. I walked them through the 2 questions that we talked about last week. Why are you here? Why do you need this plan? It's because my employees don't like the 401k, or they don't like that IRA that the state offers. And I said, okay, well, how much do you want to contribute? So we know it's for the employees. What do you want to do? And then that kind of starts opening up the conversation back to, okay, maybe we want to go up here and offer the profit sharing. Maybe we want to offer something more of these advanced plan options. But it's all about, like, let's walk them through this process of understanding what is available, and we have to understand why they're doing it. So one client is, we're going to be doing $50,000 per year on top of a basic 401k plan for them. Very basic. They're not even offering a match, but that checks off the box for their employees. And then we're going to be doing a executive bonus plan for the owners at $50,000 per year, because they don't want to have to do anything more than what they have to. Okay, so we need to be like, how much do you want to save? And they say, I don't want to put anything in the plan, but what is your profit? Okay, now we get into that. The other one is they're in Illinois. I want to give them a match because they can't do the match in the payroll deducted IRA. So we're going to be doing a 3% match in their 401k. And then I said, well, okay, what kind of investing do you want to do? I don't want to do investing inside of 401k. What do you want to do? Real estate. Okay, let's put 150 a year into the 7702, because you have $700,000 of profit and he wants to be able to get to it. And that's going to be coming out of his distributions. It does not have to go through payroll like your 401k, things like that. Okay. So we're walking them through the process with these 2 questions. Okay. So coming back to this, which is the retirement plan stack that we talked about. Okay. So again, um, let's see here. Let's go over some of these advanced options again. So this is where these brochures are going to come into play. We have one for legal, we have one for medical, I think dental, optometry, manufacturing, and Phil, I think you mentioned we need to get into the hotel industry as well. I want to get one of those made for you guys too, because I think that'll be beneficial for you. But when we are building these retirement plan stacks and the owner is looking to max out. So let me go back one slide. So for
While you're
example,
doing
what is
that,
the main, what's that?
while you're doing that, real quick, do you have something that we could fight against Cal Savers too? Seeing though, we have a pretty big market in California. I think you showed something last week, but I just want to make sure that we had something to say that basically Cal Savers is trash, and we have an opportunity to
Mhm.
provide a better value proposition.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing with Cal Saver. I mean, really going back to any of these, I think this is what you're asking, Phil. So tell me if you're not, if I'm not answering this correctly. But this is all Cal Savers is.
Right.
It's just an IRA that comes through payroll deduction. Um, the investments inside of it um, are there's literally three mutual funds, probably large cap, mid cap, and small cap, um, low quality, and then they have a few target date funds is all they have. So the two out of the four that we're onboarding right now we are against Cal Savers. Because not one employee wants to go into the Cal Savers because of the investment options. And more often than not, the employer wants to do a match. So with Cal Savers and with any of these state mandates, any of these, um, any of these state mandates, you're not allowed to do a match into your employees' um, retirement plan. In fact, the employer is not allowed to put any money into that. The only thing they're allowed to do is withhold the employee's contribution and send it off to the state to invest it. And the most they're allowed to put in is $6,500. Um, and more often than not, these employers are wanting to offer because they're in business to for their clients, right? They want more clients, they want more customers, but they're also in competition, and they are very, very much aware of this. They're in competition against their competition, right? They need to be able to have the best of the best with their uh, employee pool. They need to be able to recruit and retain. And just offering the Cal Savers option isn't going to cut it because that's what everybody else is doing. So to set themselves apart from not only their cut for their customers, but for their employees. So that's why most of them are coming out there is either one, they want to offer a match, or two, they need to do something beyond the investments because the employees' financial advisors are even saying, no, don't do that. And a lot of them have old 401ks. A lot of them have all these employees have old 401ks and they're not allowed to roll that into the Cal Savers. They want to consolidate and put it into a 401k plan with quality investments. Okay.
Basically, it's like I'm trying to think of it from a stupid perspective because I'm not that smart. It's almost like Cal Savers is like the cheapest possible car insurance. It's not going to give you much of a value as opposed to giving someone a better value in buying better car insurance. You get better perks or whatever. But we can also make it more cost efficient for the business owner too, correct? Or is it going to cost more than the Cal
It's going to
Savers
cost
will?
the, yeah. So this is where the tax credits come into
Hmm.
play.
Hmm.
Okay. So Cal Savers is free. That's it. It's
Ah,
just a free turnkey option. Not just Cal Savers. All these options are free. They just the employer just needs to be able to withhold it and submit. That's it. So withhold
Hmm.
it and then submit. And the employees have to opt out. Um, and if they don't want to put any money into it. So there's no cost to that. There's no cost to a payroll deducted IRA. There's no cost to a simple IRA. But when you get into the 401k plans and some of these advanced options, there's administration costs. And the whole point of these state tax credits, which I'm going to go over those next week, these tax credits. So they're going to be getting $250 per employee to offset the out-of-pocket expense that a 401k would have. That's the administration cost. They're also getting $1,000 per employee for the match. So if you have a business that has 20 employees, they could be getting over $20,000 in tax credits for the first 3 years.
It's
And that's
amazing.
per, yeah, Secure 2.0 is offering that, which was passed in the 11th hour of 2022. All new plans moving forward uh, um, are going to, in 2023, as long as they didn't have a plan 3 years prior to that, they get those tax credits. Something
Which
else is
is better,
happening.
which is better than the
Good.
tax deductions because you get full dollar for dollar versus a
It's a,
deduction.
it's a credit.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So that's a
Dollar for
huge
dollar credit.
difference.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a very powerful tool. It's like, yeah, this is free. The investments are terrible. You can't give them a match. So if you move it up to the 401k plan, you're going to give them, yes, it's going to cost you some money, but you're going to get some tax credits. We are absolutely designing net zero plans, 100%. It's you're able to do that with these, and it drags on for up to 5 years. And I'm going to be doing some of these tax credits next week on these case studies. But again, we have anybody who has 50 employees or below. I take that back. It's 100 employees, but really the sweet spot is 50 and below because they get 100% of the tax credits. So we have folks who are over $50,000 in tax credits right now when you add those two different tax credits together. So extremely powerful. And for some reason, nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. Again, we do 80 plans per year, and most of them don't have any idea that there's a tax credit involved. And some CPAs don't know about it either. So it's tax form 8881 is the tax form, and that is very powerful. So moving from Cal Savers or the Illinois option or whatever it is, um, moving up this stack. So they start at the payroll IRA, which is the Cal Savers. Okay, simple IRAs are generally not much better than the payroll, except for they can do the 16,000. But when you get to the 401k, then you can get a little bit more. You can get into the matching investing programs to retain them and to keep them there and get your tax credits while you're there. And then let's start talking about what does the owner want too. Okay. So what do you want to do? Which is that second question. What do you want to do with your money? And that's when you start unfolding and hopefully getting them to larger and larger plan designs. Okay. Again, um, I think we are wired as insurance agents to sell against the 401k plan more often than not. Most of them are. It's been hardwired that qualified money is bad because you have to share with your employees and you have to and you don't want necessarily want the pre-tax contributions all the time. Pay your taxes now, the Power Zero book that I told you guys about last week. It's all about getting the some sort of tax deduction. And then how do we do that? Because we want to know how much did they want to do. So we want to walk them up these plans. Okay. All right. So this is that retirement plan stack, right? Three-tiered upside down wedding cake. You have your 401k on the bottom, which is that $23,000. Then you add profit sharing on top of it, which is an additional 46,000. And then up here is where we start talking about some advanced stuff where it could be pre-tax, but more often than not, we're starting to talk about these 7702 plans in a variety of different ways, which is what the most of what we're going to talk about today. Safe harbor is absolutely the baseline. So a safe harbor 401k is that they're pre-approved. This is super important to understand when you start talking to business owners about 401k. There's traditional 401ks and there's safe harbor 401ks. The safe harbor 401k are pre-approved matching investing schedules that the IRS says this is fair. Okay. So the best way for me to explain this is the 401k tax code is built for the business owner to where they can stockpile $23,000. They can add profit sharing, but as long as they take care of their employees, they're the non-owners, the non-highly compensated employees. Okay. So Safe Harbor allows them to max this out, this 23,000, because that's where they're going to get those deductions. Okay. But usually the business owner doesn't want to do more than that because offering a match in your 401k plan is very competitive. If your business owner that you're trying to talk to is either going from 401k to the Cal Savers and which one do I do, and giving a match to the employee, the employees are going to love the match. Okay. So they're pre-approved. It's like a menu. And we'll go over this in the next week, but pre-approved matching. So it's like a menu of different matching schedules, investing schedules. Okay. And as long as you check those and say, I want this one, the IRS says, okay, now you can do whatever you want. You can max out. I don't want to go too far into this because it gets really, really complicated as far as the plan design. But the ones that we're doing right now from Cal Savers are not doing a safe harbor. They're doing a traditional, which doesn't allow them to contribute more than 2% what everyone else is doing. So it's real in-depth plan design options here, but it opens up opportunity for these non-qualified plans for the executives, also known as highly compensated employees. Sorry, this was not supposed to go in there. Otherwise, it's showing up. So the highly compensated employees are an owner of 5% or more. Okay. So the owner of the company, the owner's children, or an employee who makes 155,000, or the spouse, I'm sorry, spouse or child of the owner, or any employee that makes 155,000 or more. So in other words, I like to call them executives. So then we start going into these executive benefits. So the IRS does not care about these folks, but as long as you create a fair plan on your 401k, which is a safe harbor, then these ones can do whatever they want. Okay, they can max out. But a lot of times, if they're moving from Cal Savers to the 401k, they don't really want to do a match. They want to do the bare minimum. And we walk them through those two questions. And what is it that they really want? They want more money in their pocket. So how do you do that? You go with a non-qualified plan option at this top level up here. Okay, so when you go non-qualified plans versus qualified, 401k and profit sharing are considered qualified. That's when you have to do the fairness testing. Okay. The non-qualified up here is when you don't have to do all those fairness testing. You don't have to give a match. You just can focus on just the highly compensated, the executives, the owner, the children of the owner. That's when things really start to blossom into these plan designs. I want to skip this next slide because this is more for next week. I didn't mean to put this in here. So this is what an example of a plan design that is all qualified. I'm going to give you an example of why this doesn't work most of the time. So this is looking back at the three layered cake, right? So we have the 401k, profit sharing, and advanced options, right? So the 401k is right here. So this is how much they put in. The owner wanted to max out. This was a few years ago. This is them. They're over 50 years old. They were able to put more in because they're over 50 with the catch up. It was 19,500 if you were under 50. So this is a spouse and an owner. So the owner and the spouse of the owner. And these are the employees down here. So that first layer is down here. That's the 401k. The second layer is the profit sharing. Okay. So in order for them to do 18,000, they had to give $6,660 to all their employees. And then the top layer up here is this cash balance plan, which you can sell in those states that we talked about. Very, very high dollar amount. So in order for them to put 188, 205 for the spouse and the owner, they had to give an extra 5,000 to the employees. So for them to put in $268,000 into their 401k plan, they had to give 27,000, so 10% to their employees. This is actually a pretty efficient model, but more often than not, this does not work out. Okay. So we went through this with a dentist office, and the dentist, when we ran these numbers, in order for them to max out their formulas, they had to give $70,000 to their employees. $70,000, and it wiped out all their tax efficiency on the plan. It did not make sense to go qualified. Sometimes it does, most of the time it doesn't, because there's different variables in there. But when you come in as the expert and you say, "Hey, I'm a retirement plan expert. I'm offering the 401k, the profit sharing in these events," you have a tool for every single scenario, not just one walking in as the insurance agent. You're walking in saying, "I have a 401k. Let's run these numbers." The numbers work themselves out. It works themselves out. So instead of putting for that dentist, because they were putting $70,000 in it, we ended up putting $150,000 into a 7702 plan to offset the profit sharing that they had to give to their employees. They're still doing the match for their employees. And now that you are licensed, you have life license, and depending on the state you're doing this in, California is one of them. You are allowed to sell in California with a life license. You are now able to get paid on that 401k plan, but then also offer this advanced option to the dentist because you have every single one of these solutions. Any questions on that? We're getting really in depth with some of these conversations.
So I'll ask the question to
Yeah.
help out here. With the three-layer retirement stack, the sample owner and the spouse. Now, just for reference sake, with 401ks, they need to show the money coming out on every time they take a paycheck, correct? You can't just throw $232,000 or 268,000 at the end of the year, correct? You do have to show it through payroll.
No. So actually, that's not true. The only layer that goes through payroll is
The
here,
401k.
the
Okay.
401k. And I don't want to go too far into that because it gets really super complicated. I think these are like one-off questions. So like what these are great. Like if you have a business,
Hmm.
this is why I want you guys to write down your um, prospects, because like let's talk about it. Let's get you, me, Phil on a call. Say this is the dentist I'm looking at. What's the idea here? Let's look at. I mean, we can go to their website and look and see what's going on.
Hmm.
But it's all about so like when you look at qualified retirement plans, right? So qualified, I want to go to the next slide here. Qualified is profit sharing, 401k plans. So for this, and if you go cash balance plan, which is a form of a pension, which is what this one's based off of, those are all qualified. There's two kinds of contributions in those plans. One is an employee contribution, which is the 401k. That comes through payroll. That's the one that does have to be withheld through payroll. So a business owner, the business owners that were setting up 401ks for right now, they want to still max that out, right? It's $23,000 for 2023. They have to do a full-blown payroll of $23,000 in order to get it in there by the end of the year. These two, these are called employer contributions. So profit sharing and cash balance plans, defined benefit plans, pensions, those kind of things. Those are going to come directly from the business. It does not run through payroll at all. It
So,
bypasses the payroll.
so to kind of dumb it down, you have to pay at least to get in the game with the deduction or the payroll in order to get to the upside down three-layer cake to get to the profit and the advance. You need to at least have some form to go into the game, be it the 401k to start with,
Yeah,
for the
that's
advance
why
plan.
exactly. So that's why the this safe harbor is
Hmm.
absolutely the most important part of this whole retirement plan stack.
Yep.
because it's to
It's the
get that
entry point.
first 23,000.
Yep.
If you don't do the safe harbor, you're going to start failing tests, and then you can't put any profit sharing in, and you can't put any of this in. You have to have a safe harbor at the base of it in order for this whole thing to work and come together properly.
Yep. I just wanted to
Okay.
overemphasize that for people to just make sure that, you realize that it is a key part of the game where you can't just skip over. And
Mhm.
and again, the beauty of this for those, who came in late, um, you know, Matt and I are completely different distributions for life side, but we collaborate and he's here to help us get these, 401ks through the door. We talk about MDRT splits and different ways to partner together. But the fact of the matter is this will help you guys get through that, break through that ceiling, so to speak, especially when dealing with highly compensated business owners. So just want to reemphasize that. And that's why I'm asking some of these remedial questions. It's just, a lot of times we come across customers who want to just pay it all at the end of the year. You can't do that. We have to train them or coach them as to why they at least have to have some type of contribution coming in, on a monthly or bi monthly basis to really
Mhm.
help them start getting those deductions and higher compensated opportunities.
And to even expand that even further, the beauty of the safe harbor on the base, there's an October 1st deadline in order for them to have it for that current year,
Mm.
which is beautiful, right? Anytime you have a deadline, you can create a sense of urgency during the sales process and say, hey, we have to get this done. And honestly, it's got to be, you got to start the process by August because it takes about 2 months to set up a 401k plan.
Yep.
So it's creating that urgency. It's great. We call it safe harbor season. Stock, just keep going. Gather all your leads in the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and all of a sudden you say, "Hey, we got to get this started." Otherwise, you're going to have to do a lump sum. These two layers up here, these are not due until the day they file, including extensions for the previous year. So, for example, to get in that door after the end of the year, you can say, "Hey, do you still need deductions for 2024?" I do this all the time, every day. Say, do you need deductions? Have you filed your taxes yet? Yes or no? No. Okay. Don't do that yet. Wait, file your extension, whatever you got to do, and let's run the numbers. And it gets you in the door to talk about taxes. Taxes are big. That's what they care about are the taxes, right? So these two layers say, hey, do you still need a tax deduction? Yeah. Okay. So instead of going buy a depreciating asset like a truck, let's talk about actually putting it to work. And a huge percent of the time, the numbers don't even work out, right? These numbers don't work out the way this is efficient. But if they're in the black or if they're in the red because they're giving too much to their employees, then it opens up the conversation to all these non-qualified plan options. Okay. So when we're moving from here, because we wanted the right, they want to help, they want help on taxes. Very few understand the mentality of the long-term Roth contribution or the 7702 and understand how it ends up being tax free. Very few think more than 30 days ahead of time, to be straightforward with you. So the concept is okay, well, let's talk about the 401k, let's talk about deadlines, things like that. And then we want to move from these qualified advanced options over to these ones here, which are the insurance options. So, for example, these are some of them. We're going to go through about 4 of them today. Section 162 is a fancy term for executive bonus plan, which I think we've all heard of that executive bonus plan, right? Where you're simply bonusing your employee and then you're putting it into the 7702 or the insurance product, right? The cross purchase plan, and this is a fancy buy sell agreement where you have multiple owners, okay? What kind of information are you collecting when you do these 401ks? You're collecting the census. The census gives us the amount of money that all these employees are making, the dates of birth of all your employees, and the ownership and children of your of inside the business. You have every single bit of information that you need to be able to start talking about these non-qualified plan options. I call them executive benefits. The number one thing you don't want to do is call it infinite banking. You don't want to call it be your own bank. You don't want to call it LERP. You want to call it something like this because these are legitimate big time executive benefits that are offered at the highest level Fortune 500 companies, and we're just bringing it down to a street level is what we're doing. Okay. Deferred compensation. I'm going to explain that here in a minute. Split dollar arrangement. You know what split dollar arrangement is what's his name? Phil, help me. Jim Harbaugh, Jim or
Jim
John?
Harbaugh. Yeah, it's
Jim.
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, it's basically they're lending the business is lending contributions to the employee. It's like the business is acting as the private lender or premium financing for the employees, a low level premium financing for the employee that they end up getting it back later. Okay. An LTIP is something we do more often than not. And I'm going to explain this one to you. Okay. So these are non-qualified options, just some of them. There's so many ways to skin a cat on this, but the idea is we're going to move it from qualified over to non-qualified. And every time you do non-qualified, we're using the IRS code 7702, which I'm sure, Phil, you've talked to everybody about this over and over again, but it mimics the Roth. Okay. So in some instances, in some of these, like if it's just the owner, for example, the one who Cal Savers, we're going to put $50,000 for the owner. We're just doing this on a personal ownership because there's no reason to muddy up the waters on trying to get the business to own it. It's easier for them to just do a simple distribution and do the contributions through the distribution of their business instead of trying to have the ownership. Some instances it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, we're always using this tax code 7702. Now, remember back to the two things that business owners care about. It's growing their business and taxes, right? This is where having a really good understanding of other tax strategies is super important because you're not going to give them that instant gratification of the upfront deduction on their contribution. You're giving them the long term, and you can talk about that all day long with that power of zero where we're at a low tax bracket now, the future, we don't know what it's going to be and blah, blah, blah. It mimics the Roth. Great. It makes sense to us, but they still want that instant gratification. And so does their CPA. So we need to find other things like cost segregation. And these are super high level options here, but it's cost segregation, research and development tax credits. So working with a really good CPA, which I have access to all these specialists. If you need introductions to them, they're phenomenal partners. And you say, I tell you what, I can't get you the upfront deduction. I can help you in the long term, but let me help you with this because I really understand your business model. Let's talk about this. So having that niche that we talked about last week, finding a niche, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's electronics, whether it's legal, medical, whatever, if you understand, really, really, really understand that business industry, you can wash, rinse, repeat over and over again because you know exactly what they need and what they don't need. So it helps you tell that story over and over again. It gets you in the door, and then you can expand out beyond that industry and work with their partners and things like that. So 7702 helps with the long term, but you always have to find a way to help with the short term. Okay. And when you do that, you won the relationship. You're theirs because 401ks by definition are a very transactional business. If you can turn it into something that's not transactional, you win. All right, so let me go over these examples real quick. So deferred compensation was the one I wanted to start with. Deferred compensation is the highest level executive benefit that you can do. I try my hardest to not do these because it's there. You have to have lawyers involved. You're basically promising your employee. It's a contract between the business owner and your employee that's saying, I'm going to defer your compensation for a few years or for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. But there's a lot of administration costs involved. It gets a little, for small and closely held businesses, it gets very, very convoluted and very, very complex for the small business owner. When you go down to the LTIP, which is long-term incentive plan, that's what we do by far the most. So let me give you a really, really good example of what we just did. and we're implementing as we speak. It's a small company, family business, multi-generational. Mom, dad own it. They're in their 60s, and their 25-year-old son is the successor to their business. They're trying to expand into a new market, and they need an executive or a manager to run that side of the side of the company. And they need to bring in someone who is worth a lot of money. So what they're doing is say, hey, we're going to give you $200,000 a year salary. But if you stay with us for 10 years, we're going to give you another $200,000 just for this long-term incentive plan, assuming your number, the business is doing well and things like that. It's a simple contract. Now, how do we fund that? Instead of putting it on the employee that is coming in, which is very complicated. So they'll go home to their spouse and say, hey, honey, I got an offer, $200,000 a year, and they're going to put some sort of life insurance on me. And when that happens, I have no idea what that means, but whatever, that's what it is. It's very complicated, hard to explain when you go home and explain that to your spouse on what your new job offer is. So what we did is we used the son, who's 25 years old, as the surrogate. And the surrogate is the insured, who is the son, and that's going to be under the key employee plan, right? They are a key integral part of that business because it's the successor. We can easily get life insurance on it. We're 25 years old, and we're simply creating a legal document that says, I promise to pay you X amount of dollars in 10 years. And all they have to do is take a loan against the policy, and boom, that's it. Along with that, we're creating a multi-generational plan that mom and dad, G1, is able to utilize the cash value to supplement their retirement while the son is running the business. And then when they pass away, the son keeps contributing into it, and now he can use it. It's a 2-generation, multiple use policy that they get to use incentive plans for their executives. Super easy to get going, and super easy for the employee to understand what it is. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to add another layer to that LTIP. Okay. It's called phantom stock. Now, this is a relatively, I don't want to say newer concept, but not as common. Phantom stock is exactly what it sounds like. It's fake stock in a company. These companies are going to be for like maybe $10 million or more per year. Okay. Great for manufacturing companies. Great, because they're usually doing some high profits, and there's some executives in there that need to take care of. Phantom stock is utilizing the same LTIP concept, right? The LTIP is super simple. If you're here for 10 years, you get this. So deferred compensation is the highest level, and there's a lot of rules involved in administration. LTIP is a lower level version. Phantom stock is a higher level version of the LTIPs. And basically, you're creating all these vesting schedules and all these parameters and all these tenure options. So they've been with you for 10 years. It's a non-qualified version of profit sharing. So if the company goes up by 10%, you're willing to give 3% to your executives. And there's a whole system and software that we partner with that tracks it, and it's being funded with an IUL, a massive IUL that is completely tax-free for the distributions on the business owner. It is a phenomenal, one of the best executive benefits you can offer to a business, and I promise you, no one else is going to offer something like that. This is super high level. And if you can find a business that is doing 10 million or more per year in revenue, this is for them. Okay. Any questions on the phantom stock? Okay. For the interest of time, I don't want to go too far into these, but qualified swap. Now, this is a lot of fun, and it's kind of hard to find. I'm kind of going a little bit high level here too. But just keep in mind this. If it's the owner, I want to take a step back real quick. If it's the owner of a company, it's easy, right? You're just doing this side of it. The owner's paying the taxes, it doesn't matter. If you're going with employee benefits, we're doing executive bonuses. We're doing split dollar. We're doing deferred compensation, LTIPs. Companies with maybe just a few million or less of revenue per year is LTIP. That is the easiest low-level version you can do. Phantom stock is the next level up. Qualified swap is for the owner. So this is someone who has an established 401k plan or profit sharing plan or a defined benefit plan. Okay. A defined benefit plan, you can use 50% of the assets inside of a defined benefit plan to purchase life insurance. There's an absolute tax code. I don't have it in front of me here, but there's a tax code that allows this. If you do it in profit sharing, it's 100% can purchase life insurance. There's only a few carriers. Pacific Life is one of them that allowed to be purchased inside of any of these qualified plans. So this is called a qualified swap, and this is going to blow these business owners' mind. If they have, this is an example. Some of these numbers don't line up. I'm not sure why this is on here like this, but let's say there's 400 or $4 million inside of a qualified plan. Okay, let's just call it profit sharing. So they've max funded everything and it's sitting inside the profit sharing. Maybe they rolled over a bunch of money into this profit sharing plan and they have $2 million. Technically, it's 2.5. I don't know why these numbers are different, but outside of the plan, that's liquid. Okay, so you have 4 million in the plan, 2 million outside of the plan, or 2.5 million. Forget this 2.09, it's 2.5. What you're doing is you're purchasing a life insurance policy for 5 years at $800,000 a year. So that's $4 million. Pacific Life is actually quite good with this because they have a 5-year index last time I checked. And it buys $10 million of life insurance. So when you fund this, and if you use that 5-year index, there's no indexing going on, and the cost of insurance and all the fees are coming out. It ends up being 2.568 million after those $4 million of contributions over the first 5 years. So this is the cash value. There's a lot more to this calculation, but let's just call this is the cash value available option limit here. What you do is you put the same amount here into an ILIT or some other similar type of trust outside of the qualified plan. And when that right before this 5-year hits, you swap it. And the IRS code allows you to swap $2.5 million inside of the trust for the $4 million that you put in, completely and utterly tax-free. You literally never had to pay taxes because it went in after tax, right? When you contributed into these pre-tax accounts, and you swapped and took out $1.5 million out of their qualified plan without paying taxes, and you swap it, and now it's sitting inside of the 2.5 million, it's sitting inside the ILIT. And then boom, the index hits, and now all of a sudden there's $4 million outside. It has to be done before the index hits on that 5-year index. And then you took out a huge percentage. Usually it's like 25% out of your qualified plan completely tax-free. This is very, very high level, almost I'd call it estate planning level planning. But if you can get a business owner that has this kind of money and they're worried more about their heirs in generation 2 or generation 3, this is how you get money out of the qualified plan, by buying life insurance inside of the qualified plan. I'm sure there's about 1 million questions on that one. But if you want to ask me on the side, to go for it.
I was gonna say we might need a separate one for that because I know we got about 9 minutes.
Mhm.
Um, I think just the idea of how we can leverage qualified opportunities with non-qualified opportunities or using life insurance inside of things like this is going to be very important.
Mhm.
So yeah, I might need to borrow you for a couple more sessions if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I think the 401k, the retirement plan space is so vast
Yep.
that trying to explain everything within 4 sessions isn't my goal. It's to highlight it, and then as you think of these businesses that have these revenues or these
Mhm.
niches, is write them down, and then we can talk about them either one on one or Phil, you can ask me to come in and do another very specific um, case design on that too. So, um, like you said, we only have 9 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much more time here. But it all comes down to these two questions. So if you start with these state mandates, the state mandates are huge. They're sitting here. This is what they're offering on the state mandate. Ask those questions and you walk them up these to get them over to this advanced plan options. So yeah, you get the 401k, you get to get paid on the 401k too, because of the licensing requirements, only needing a life insurance license for most of these states. So and you get to ongoing revenue, right? And then all of a sudden you open up the opportunity for not all of them, not they don't all go into this advanced plan design because it depends on what's going on, but a lot of them do. It opens up a ton of opportunity. And it's just based on these two questions that I went over probably 6 dozen times now, I think I mentioned. So these two I start every single conversation with. I have about 6 meetings a day with business owners, and all of them start with these two. And we have a really good high level um, sales sales rate. And if you start with these two, they start you get to separate yourself from the crowd, and it really they'll start noticing it. So next week we're really going to focus on the case studies, specific numbers, starting with a small business and moving up to a really high level business that unlocks a lot of estate planning opportunities too, because of the process that we take. And this is the process. Consult, ask those two questions, get into plan design deeper. When you get into implementation, you've been listening during these two phases here. You start implementing the plans, and then during the wrap up call, you go back to, oh, you mentioned you had a business owner. You mentioned your profit is $700,000 a year. Let's do a business valuation. Let's do this. Let's do that, and it ties it all together. And then all of a sudden, you get every piece of the business of that business owner, and there's no stone left unturned. So I'm inching you into these case studies. The case study is going to be the best part, and week 4 is going to be all about how to find the businesses. Okay, and we're going to bring in John Hancock, and they're going to talk to you about using different sales tools and things like that. And then I'll have different tools for you as well. I do have a tax credit calculator that is almost done being built. So you can literally walk into a business and say, hey, let's see how much tax credits you're going to get. You'll be able to type in your email address and it's going to come to you. It does not come to us. We do not keep that information at all. You're able to run the numbers and show them what kind of tax credits they're going to get to help offset those ridiculous CalSavers accounts. So that's it. That's all I got today. Any questions?
Well, I was going to say, well,
Are
people are okay. Go ahead. I didn't know if people were going to ask a question anyway. Go for it.
sorry. I was curious if there's any restrictions in the state of New York when I'm talking with business owners and
Yes.
trying to help them with these plans.
Yeah. So New York, it just like in the insurance industry is amazing to work with sometimes. But so it's not, so all you need is life in New York,
Okay.
but then it comes down to the company,
Okay.
right? It comes down, how a lot of these companies don't even do business in New York. We
Yeah.
just have to find the company. That's it. So companies like John Hancock, Voya, which was One America, Principal Financial, any insurance, or I guess they call it variable annuity based company we can use. Some of them are better than others, but yeah, you're limited just like on the insurance side. Some of them don't want to do business in New York.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
And if you guys have more questions, throw them in the chat or just blurt it out. The big thing is that the idea here is that we have someone that we can utilize from a collaboration standpoint. Matt and his team are TPAs, so they would help us coordinate the plan, partner with the business owner, and help manage it as well. So it's not like Matt's just coming in as a pretty face and telling us all these fancy things, which very appreciative of. You know, the idea here is to create that lasting relationship to work in a symbiotic way. So if you have clients that, you know, you can think of, whether it's a business owner, a sole proprietor, all the way up to, you know, Matt, what's the biggest, you know, organization you guys have worked with or can work
Couple
with, I
thousand
guess.
employees, couple
Yeah.
thousand employees.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, don't 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 try and solicit Google, but you know, you know, but the idea is that you have an opportunity here to go into your local market. I mean, the prospects are huge, and I've said this several times when I talk about where I live. Right across the street is a grocery store and five privately owned businesses in a strip mall. And so you just don't know until you know. And with those two simple questions that Matt put up, you know, you can start having an educated conversation and then bring in the experts to really go over uh, an opportunity. And then from there, you just gain organic leads and grow throughout the organization. So it's just only going to help you grow the right way, I like to say, you know. So this is all really great stuff. And you guys will be amazed next week, same time, 4 o'clock Central, Thursday, when we do have John Hancock in. I was able to, I don't want to say get early access, but you know, get access to the retirement site, and you know, you can enter zip code of your local area and find out who has 401ks and how much
Hmm.
is in them. And so you definitely don't want to miss next week from the standpoint of everything that's built into this and how you can grow your platform, grow, you know, for those who have teams, grow and help your teams, and ultimately, you know, the most important part of all of this is the objective is help your community. When you help your community, they help you, and you just grow that pipeline of referral resources, and everybody wins. So I'll go and ask once again any questions. I don't think I saw any in the chat. Give you one last minute while I do that. This will be posted up in the YouTube channel at Valor Financial, and you know, feel free to subscribe there. And I think that's it. So, and we're right at time. So, Matt, thank you again. I appreciate it. I'll be back home from vacation myself on Sunday. So if anyone has any questions or anything, want to reach out to me as well, feel free to do so. I have all these documents that Matt is sending. If you did not get them from the last week's session, or you want to get the ones from this week's as well, feel free to email me, Phil at valorfs.com, and I'll gladly get those out to you. So thanks again, Matt, and everyone for joining today. You guys have a great rest of the day and a great weekend. All right. See ya.